Hi, welcome to Press Play, where we talk with high performers about what they do when they shut the laptop down and unwind and recharge. So I have here with me Nigel Fischer, who is with Guitars for Vets. Super, super cool and amazing organization that I can't wait to hear more about. But before we get into that, I want to talk with you about you. Thanks for being here today.
Happy to be here. Thank you so much for the invitation. I was blown away when I got it, especially after I started listening into some of the episodes, because I'll be very honest, I wasn't familiar with the podcast prior to the invitation. And I go, wow, this is interesting. Let me take a look. And as I started listening to some of the episodes, I go, wow, you absolutely nailed like a match between what I'm all about and like your other guests and who you are as a person. I was like, this is so cool. I can't wait to have a great discussion today.
Wow. I'm so glad to hear that because I really do take intention seriously with this. We're trying to spread some positivity in the world. We're trying to, you know, do the right things and talk with the right people that are inspirational and, make a difference. So that is you, Nigel.
Fantastic. Well, thank you. I'm humbled by that because, I've led a life of many different things over the course of, 50 years now. And, my ultimate goal in my heart is always to be good and be a good influence on others. I've missed that mark a lot in my life, but I think the overwhelming evidence, if somebody had a camera that had followed me around, is that I do a genuine best, anyone's best that they can each day to be a positive in other people's lives.
I love that. And I think that that's really cool. And you definitely applied that to what you do day in and day out. And I think that that's really amazing. So going into a little bit more of your personal life, it's cool because you have a lot of the same or similarities that I like to do, which are like hiking. I like anything outdoors. But one thing that really stood out to me was bees, like beekeeping or can you tell me more about that? That is so cool.
Yeah, so I am not in any way in an official capacity a beekeeper yet. And I say yet because it is something I will do. It is on my short list of things that I plan to achieve over the next couple of years. And I plan to do that in partnership with a veteran service organization that serves veterans like me and gives them those skills so that they can contribute to a healthy ecosystem. So the part that my wife and I play right now in that role for pollinators is maintaining a very natural habitat around our forever dream home. So we worked really, really hard. My wife served as a soldier for 15 years, and that was before we met. And I served on active duty as a Marine for 20 years. And so we've seen and done a lot of things. And when we found each other, by the grace of God later in life, and after relationships that predated one another, it was really such an amazing thing that we were connected around so many different aspects of who we are as individuals. And it's been really neat to achieve a lot of our goals and dreams together. And one of those is having a very natural homestead. And so we are very averse to toxins and chemicals. And a lot of that comes from her being a nurse practitioner focused on integrative and functional medicine. And both of us as veterans, knowing that through the course of what we raised our hand, knowing we were getting into something very potentially dangerous in our military careers and that we would be, we wanted to get rid of some of those toxins in our lives. So things like pesticides and herbicides in their yard. And we started becoming very fascinated with how we could build a better ecosystem and planting lots of different diverse native plants and that sort of thing. And realizing that pollinators are more than just bees. And that was the really cool thing, was learning about all of that. So I won't go on too much about it unless you've got specific questions, but really that was the first step. And, in understanding what's happening in society with just the prevalence of those things, like, things that are ultimately neurotoxins for all of us in our ecosystem, we wanted to remove. And so we're doing our part. And while we can't do it all alone, and we hope others do it over time, we figured, well, we can be an example of making it possible in a modern lifestyle that is balanced between some of the conveniences that we've become accustomed to, but also doing our part to reduce those things in the environment and create a healthier habitat.
Wow. First, thank you to you and your wife for your service for our country.
It was an honor.
Definitely so appreciative about that, and I love the story about how you 2 connected, like, later on and had the same vision for how your life would go about, and through her nurse practitioner experience and education, she knows, kind of how to guide that, so I think that that is amazing.
Thank you. Yeah, it's really a joy each day for us to learn and grow together. And I think that's probably more than the individual pieces that make up how we approach life. It's the overarching mindset of we have a can-do attitude. We've been in a lot of situations in life that have tested our resolve as humans. And I think that's one of the defining qualities of each of us as individuals, but shines through in our relationship is the fact that, there's going to be hard days. There's always hard days. No one is without them. We've seen, I think, and we're not martyrs by any means, but we've seen a disproportionate amount, I guess I would say, through serving in combat and that sort of thing. But we try to maintain a really positive attitude because if not, it's super easy to get down. And no matter who may hear that message, it's really something I want to focus on. And it was one of the cool things that shines through so much about Press Play because it's all about positivity and we need more of that these days. We need to encourage one another and say, hey, it's okay to have a bad day. It's okay to have a normal reaction to abnormal circumstances. But at the end of the day, we got to regroup and we got to support
Absolutely.
one another and we got to bring some joy in what we do. And none of us have to carry the load alone. So like let's lean on each other. And that's okay to do. And we have a hard time saying that.
Completely agree, and I think it's, like, contagious, both sides. So when you're negative and have those negative thoughts and then you're around other people who can either contribute to that, it gets worse instead of better. And then same thing with the positivity. I believe that when you're talking positive around those that are positive, you're going to experience more of that. Sorry, I hit the microphone here. But so I think that that's really important, and I really wanted to showcase, like, who people really are. Sometimes people are intimidated of those that are in positions where they're, running organizations and leading high careers, but we're all people.
Yes, yes, we are. And that's really important to remember. We all have to drink water. We all have to nourish our bodies with the food that we put into ourselves. And that goes for the people that we surround ourselves with. It goes for the things that we consume visually and through our ears, the things that we're watching on TV, reading, whatever it is in our environment. So, an example I'd use to not make it complicated or for folks to unintentionally kind of get wrapped around the axle, if you will, is if you've got a jackhammer happening outside your window when you're trying to sleep, that's a negative input for healthy sleep. I think we
Yes.
could all agree to that,
Yeah.
right? And like if I go and I drink a bottle of poison that is meant, something that's meant to go in my car engine, we could all agree that that's bad. So why do we have such a hard time going, you know what? What I'm seeing as I'm scrolling through social media seems unpleasant to me. Why would we continue to do that? And I'm not saying that social media as a whole is bad. I think there's a lot of value in sharing ideas en masse and being able to gravitate towards positive messages. I consume social media in small bits and pieces, but I'm very conscious of what type of content I'm consuming. And I start to block out, I want to see less of this. And I try to follow things that are positives in my life. So the example, beekeeping and nature and outdoors and hiking and sports and people that send positive messages. And so I try to avoid those negative inputs because I know that without going down too many rabbit holes here where we find ourselves off course of what we want to talk about today, but we think about our health in these, it's almost like we're partitioned, right? We think, well, there's mental health, okay, and then there's physical health, and we separate these out because there are important differences in the disciplines for practitioners and for the way that we address those complexities within our being. But I like to look at us as, it's all tied together. If I don't sleep great, I have a poor attitude oftentimes the next day, which we would say is mental health to a degree because now I'm agitated. I feel unsettled. I feel anxious. And so we would say, well, that falls in the category of mental health. Does it though?
Right.
It's all just my over being health because it affects the physiology behind it as well. So I like to think of it as just say it's health. So be mindful of your health and what can we all do to take those small little things in life in today's very busy society to work on our own health. It's very empowering. And I'm happy to dive into some of those that I do. If you want to talk about those things
I
as we continue on.
Yes, I would love that. Maybe we can go there because I have a few other questions, but I think that that's perfect to hear, like, what do you do? What practice do you have that brings you to a healthier place?
Yeah, it was really neat hearing that from one of your recent guests. I believe her name was Marnie Levy. And
Yeah.
I was listening. That was one I was listening to this morning as I was like getting cleaned up for the day and kind of thinking about, hey, what difference am I gonna make today? And I was like, well, I want to hear what somebody else does, and like let's enjoy that. One of the things that stood out to me, and this is in part answer to what I do, is I don't have such a rigid structure to what I do where now I'm battling this. It's a negative or oppositional just schedule in my life where it's like, okay,
Mhm.
if I don't hit the gym at 5:30 in the morning, like clockwork, Monday through Friday, and if I don't make gains and if I don't do this, then I start feeling down. It's
Ah,
counterproductive. Like that is not good because now I've developed an oppositional relationship with what should be a healthy input in my life. And so I look at it like this. I'm going to do my best today and I'm going to, with intention, seek out opportunities to just get done anything I can. And so it's a long term approach. And I keep in mind that this isn't just a way to give myself an out because some people would say, well, you've got to have that structure because otherwise you can fall victim to self sabotage. I disagree. I mean, I agree in some aspects, but the reason I disagree is this. When we take a look at human physiology and battling something that a lot of people in our society are struggling with today, type 2
mhm.
diabetes, and that is due to we've become resistant to insulin. Well, what's one of the best ways that we can reduce that insulin resistance and become more sensitive is if I walk at any pace for 10 minutes post meal, I
Wow.
will reduce the blood sugar spike.
Hmm.
More often I do that, and that simple act of reducing that blood sugar spike will allow my body to recover and become more sensitive again and put less strain on my pancreas, and therefore less likelihood that I will be type 2 diabetic. Type 2 diabetes isn't a life sentence. It is not type 1. It is
Okay.
not something that is coded into our body forever. We can reverse type 2 diabetes with simple steps like that in our lives. And so I just go, hey, that's an example of it doesn't have to be an all or nothing approach. Let me just, okay, we're going to get done with our family meal. We don't do it every night. I'll be honest. I'm not going to raise my hand and say, try to make everyone believe we do this every single night. But we try to discipline ourselves. We've got a small dog, a miniature schnauzer who's real high energy.
Aw.
He loves it. We love it. And the beautiful component beyond, the physical aspect is we get to connect as a family. We don't
Yeah.
have our devices. We're not scrolling on social media or replying to emails as we're walking. We're paying attention to the path we're on and we're paying attention to the birds that may be present. We're blessed to live in a unique area of Texas that is a corridor for migration of birds. And
Wow.
so, yeah, as the seasons change, what a joy to get to see so many different species. And so I'm a bird nerd. I don't claim to be an
That's
expert,
awesome.
but I absolutely love wildlife. And so while we're out walking, I'm taking note of what I'm seeing and I'll point that out to my family. Hey, look, did you see that bird? And they go, wow, I've never seen that before. And so it's that connection. And now we're stimulating our brain and we're releasing positive hormones. And it just cascades, right? And you come back from a 10-minute walk just down to the end of the street and back, and you just go, I just feel better. And you
Yeah.
feel empowered because you took that step to go out and do those things. And you go, wow, that was easy. Like what higher priority did we have as a family in that moment? Probably nothing. Dishes will
Wow.
still be there. You
Yeah.
know, the sunlight's waning, but the dishes will still be there when I get back. And I think sometimes, I fall victim to, my own laziness. I do, but I try to discipline myself to get out and do those things. So that's just one way, similar to Marnie. And I heard your thoughts on the same topic as, hey, it feels so good to get out and go for a walk, even if it's just a
Totally.
leisurely stroll. And there is health benefit to it, and it stacks and it adds up. No different than, a penny, right? Like if I put together a million pennies, it
Right.
still makes a larger sum of money. But it doesn't seem like it if you only added one penny per day. It would seem like it would take forever to get there, but eventually you would have millions of dollars if you stacked them all up together. And that's the health benefit of those micro efforts that we can all do. Unless someone is going through some health challenges that are so extreme that they're bound to a bed or a wheelchair or something. And even then, we can attempt to do other things. There
Right.
are ways that we can move our upper body. And I say that having had to overcome ailments in my life that precluded me from using certain body parts.
Wow.
I was unable to use my dominant arm. I'm left-handed, and my left shoulder joint was destroyed through an IED blast. And so while I was recovering from that, it was demoralizing. It
Mm.
was depressing, and I was young, or younger than I am now. That was, almost 20 years ago. And so as I was recovering, I had to really focus hard on I can still move my legs. So even though I love doing pull-ups and I love swimming and doing triathlon, and at the time I was an active duty Marine, like all these things, push-ups and weightlifting, and I just go, I can't do it. And I go, wait a second, you can do anything, man. Come on, Nigel. Like stop it. I lived near
Wow.
the beach at the time and I just got out and I went for walks as often as I could. I'd just go walk as far until I was bored, which usually wasn't a short duration because Southern California at the time, beautiful ocean. I would just listen to the seagulls and watch people catching sharks or fish and say hi to folks jogging on the beach. And I just go, yeah, this is for me. This is going to get me to where I need to go.
Mm. Wow. And that just brings up so much to me that like there's so much you can do. It's perseverance over sometimes our own thoughts to get through things and say I can still, do XYZ. By the way, I hear an echo. So in case I oh, that made it worse. But anyway, I can edit this out. Let me just see if one little thing I do here doesn't seem to be anything I'm doing wrong. But hey, all right. So, but it also brings me to think about so you lived by the beach, where you live now. I know that you've lived in several different places. How did you
Yeah.
draw experiences from those places that, kind of bring you to where you are today?
Yeah, it's been really interesting. A variety of cultural influences in my life as I've had opportunity to live in other countries for extended periods of time as well, whether it be on a military deployment that was in a peaceful area like Japan. No war going on. There's no safety and security threat, and I'm able to get out and interact with the Japanese culture. And something I learned was and I can't remember the exact name of it, but it's really fascinating to me that it's a well-known thing to go for a walk in the woods. Is basically what it boils down to, and it's a cultural thing in Japan. It's an intentional adventure out into the woods at regular intervals and just something that people do for the health benefit of it.
Wow.
And just understanding that, I didn't think much of it at the time other than, wow, that's really cool that there's such an intentional way to get out. And you see people walking and bicycling, and I just go, these people are amazingly healthy. And I'm thinking to myself, if I ate, and it is true, there's a massive amount of rice consumption. And
Yeah.
and I go, wow, like I would like double my size and weight if I lived here, I feel like, with all the rice. And I go, how are these people able to, just be fit and healthy and vibrant and happy? And it's because they're so focused on, I'm going to take mass transportation if I need to.
Mm.
But otherwise, I'm my own mobility, whether by foot or bicycle. That's the predominant way to get around. And
Wow.
they've maintained a culture that is centric to what we think of as many, many decades ago in the US, where you have local farms and you have local markets. And so meat and produce are all brought in from one another's properties and basically shared, right? Trading and or purchase. And so everything is very localized. And so it makes it possible. And sadly, we've become so dependent on long distance travel and motor vehicles to get to where we need to go and haul things. But that's an influence for me that stuck with me, and I've seen it in other cultures as well. I lived in Africa for a while. And while I was in Africa working for the US government, I had the opportunity to live in Niger, very underdeveloped country by Western standards. In other words, electricity, plumbing, all unpredictable, fresh water,
Mm.
unpredictable. The same cultural phenomenon is at play, where goods and services are procured locally by friends and neighbors in the same small community. And most people are mobile via foot or bicycle or animal,
Wow.
maybe. And yes, there are cars and there are buses and taxis, but you see the vast majority of people are on foot. They're walking around, and I've seen that pretty universal throughout the world compared to American society. And there's a reason for that. It's not just affordability. It's not just a cultural thing of, in America, something we just like. It's because those other cultures see the health benefits too. They resist. There's a lot of availability in plenty of countries that is just, we don't want it. We don't want it.
Wow.
Well, fast forward to current day, an interesting thing that I discovered a couple of years ago, harkening back to the Japanese culture of going for those walks in the woods. It's rooted in science, and that is, trees emit enzymes that are health positive when we breathe them in. And you don't know it, you can't smell them.
Yeah.
But have you ever gone for a walk in the woods or a forest? And there's just that thing, you just get done and you just
Yes.
feel good. It's not just because
100%.
you got
Yes.
out and moved, right? Yeah. But
It's
I think,
different.
yeah, there's just, and you just can't put your finger on it. And it's not necessarily life changing in the moment, but it's like, I just feel good. Like the it just feels clean
Yep.
here, or
Yep.
whatever it is. It's a real thing. There's enzymes being released from these trees as they're going about their lives, and they're good for us, and we're breathing them in, and it causes positive hormone response in our bodies, not just the positive impact of being outside and moving our body. There is something scientific behind it that's deeper. So, whether there's a scientific aspect or it's just something that we find pleasure in, it matters not, as long as there's a positive outcome. I encourage anyone, you feel that positivity in the way that you move your body or the activity that you're getting out in nature. How can that be wrong?
That's right. Wow. And I love it because walking is approachable, as you were saying. Mostly people can do it. If they can't, there are other things they can do. And I think that that's like it gives that motivation. When you said 10 minutes after a meal, I was like, okay, I can do 10 minutes.
Yeah.
And so it kind of makes it like I could do that, and probably it'll end up being longer, uh, especially if I take my family and dogs, and it'll be a lot more joyful.
Yeah. And that's the cool thing, is I think once there's that first step and we have self agency and we go, you know what, however I'm feeling, I'm tired of feeling this way. I need to
Mhm.
do something, anything. That's one thing that most people, the vast majority of us, can do. How about I work in an office building? I work on the second floor. I'm not talking 100-story building, right?
That's right.
My wife and I have this thing. It's if it's more than 9 floors, forget about it. If we go to a hotel, we're taking the elevator, right? But
Yeah.
depending on how much luggage and whether we've got our daughter with us, she's 11, that
Oh,
sort of thing. But we're not gonna, put a burden on her. But even with her, if it's a floor or two, we're taking the stairs, man, up
that's right.
and down, especially down. But down is impactful too.
Yeah.
And people think, oh, well, it doesn't do any good to go down. I'll just ride the elevator. No, it does. You're working different muscles and just exercising them in little bits and pieces can add up over time. So I go, hey, we all look for the close parking spot. How long are we driving around and getting frustrated by people backing out or walking in front of us or the shopping cart that's in the way or whatever? Really, y'all, come on. I challenge you, go 100 feet unless you have some super, drastic health condition and you're unable versus unwilling.
Mhm.
If you're just unwilling, I'll challenge you. At the grocery store from now on, you're going to get less door dings. You don't have to wait to find the spot. Just go out there 100 feet in the back 40 of the parking lot and just walk in. You're going to be happy you did because less stress while you're sitting in the parking lot in and out. And you're probably saving yourself time on the whole, if we're being honest, and if not,
Right.
I challenge somebody, hey, use a stopwatch next time. Fact check me on this, but I'm pretty confident I know the answer, right? So, and it's good for you. It's good for you.
I I think that that's wisdom right there. We could all practice that and try to find the long distance parking spot. I think it's wise and gives us something to think about when we are trying to rush to find that perfect spot.
Yeah.
So I think about going to the perfect spot, especially at the grocery store, and then that brings me right to food. So I swear you're my brother from another mother because a lot of your responses, I'm like, yes, this is so me.
Yeah. Yeah.
You are a foodie.
Yes.
Let's
Yes. Oh
talk
my
food.
gosh. I'm excited about food always. All right. Where should we start?
All right. So let's start with like maybe your favorite go-to when you just need that like I want to feel nice, warm and fuzzy inside.
Cheese. Cheese. Oh
Okay.
my gosh, cheese. I absolutely love cheese. I would say nuts are also a favorite. When I was a kid, I had to have, like in the can, whatever brand, doesn't matter, but, the flavors and, salted and everything. And by the way, salt, extremely important in our bodies. It is essential. You will die without it. It is not the
Okay.
devil. I will
Yeah.
commit to this. I am not a medical practitioner, but I will tell you, I get a coronary artery scan via CT
Okay.
every five
Okay.
years at this stage of life. I did one 5 years ago, and I
Mhm.
focus on whole natural foods in my life. Not saying I don't deviate from time to time. Come on,
Yeah.
I like a good pleasurable departure, here and there. But on the whole, I'd say I stick to whole natural foods and have been doing that for 10 years very consistently,
Wow.
and it's paid huge dividends in my health. And those coronary arteries, when you get your report back, as zero is a perfect score. And I've had a zero 2 times in a row now over five
Oh my
years of living
goodness.
this lifestyle. And hey, I got to tell you, I drink alcoholic beverages from time to time, but over the last 5 years have been, diminishing the amount more and more and more. I drank heavily in my earlier life.
Mm.
I won't shy away from saying that. And I realized that that probably wasn't going to be good for me long term as I started to become more health conscious in a real way, not just exercising. Hey, as a
Yeah.
Marine, I had to stay fit, and I did for 20 years, 2 decades
Wow.
consistently, but at a lot of toxic inputs, junk food,
Mm.
but I could overcome it. When you're going out and you're hiking 15 miles, you can eat anything you want.
You
I could
can eat
eat a
whatever you
gallon of
want
ice cream or something. Yeah, it's no big deal.
and you
And like you
justify
wouldn't
it.
see. Exactly. I'm like, see, I can get away with this. Well, it catches up. I'm here to
Yeah.
tell you. And I'm battling through maintaining a healthy balance in this day and age. But what I would say is I kind of got off track when I mentioned salt.
Mm,
Because what I was going to say about nuts is I like raw nuts. They're minimally
mm,
processed. They're not fried in seed oils, which cause
yeah,
a lot of inflammation in our bodies. And they're just added calories that are not good calories.
right.
There's no nutritional value in heavily processed, overly heated seed oils. They're empty calories that, they get stored in our body because they're not found in nature. When we break down those molecules by overheating and processing, and they just sit in our bodies. And that's why we hang on to that stubborn fat
Wow.
that accumulates on us. It's because our body goes, hey, I know what saturated fat is that comes from a cow when you eat the fat in a meat
Right,
that is found in nature. I know how to process this.
right.
I eat an apple, there's sugar found in nature. I know how to process this and how to prioritize one over the other. What about when something does not naturally occur in nature? The
Mm,
body goes, what do I do? Just
right.
put it over there until I figure it out. So I've gotten really focused on raw nuts, and I may add salt sometimes, but I found I enjoy the flavor. Unlike when I was a kid, when it had to be, in the can and off the supermarket shelf
Yeah.
and all of that. But yeah, the cheeses and the nuts, I'll tell you, I feel good about it because, everything in moderation. But if I go, hey, I've got a hankering for something right now, what do I want to go snack on? I'll grab some cheese, a slice of cheese, and a handful of raw cashews or something, and it's delightful,
Wow.
because I've gotten so far away from things like processed foods where your taste it starts to change. And so
Mm,
things that may not have tasted very pleasant before, I'd encourage folks the further you get away from boxes, the further you get
right.
away from packages, the further you get towards things that you can identify where they came from. I know what an apple looks like. I know that
Mhm.
it grows on a tree. I know I can go out and pick it if I have a tree, which I don't, so I still buy them at the grocery store. But I know it's found in nature. It's one ingredient. And when I eat that, I don't feel like, oh, wow, I'm putting something toxic into my body. I
Right.
know where it comes from. And so it's very enjoyable. And then now we reduce this opposition with our food. It feels good. It tastes good. It's nourishing. And the output is I have better energy. I sleep better
Mm.
and that sort of thing. So I uh, I can go down so many rabbit holes, but I look forward to hearing where you want to go with this because as a foodie, I mean, I can talk food all day long, but that's kind of my basic approach to food, and one that my wife and I have found very useful because in her work, she goes in and she sees patients that come in, they may be 20, 30 years old, and they have a lot of joint problems. They have type 2 diabetes or other health markers that indicate their life will be very short, and she works
Wow.
with them to achieve a better health span, not just years of life.
Mm.
And she goes, hey, can you do this? And she squats down and she's got her elbows, out on her knees. And she
Yes.
goes, hey, do this with me. I need to test your mobility and see, I need to diagnose what's going on with you. And they go, ma'am, I can't do that. And she goes,
Wow.
I'm pushing 50. Come on, like
Come on.
we need to move our bodies and we need to be mobile because one of the biggest indicators of longevity and health span is lean muscle mass and
Mm.
resistance training. And it doesn't have to be extreme. It doesn't have to be lifting heavy weights, but just doing things that put strain on our muscles increases positive bone density. Our bones turn, I just learned this the other day through a practitioner she was listening to online. Our bones actually turn over completely in a 10-year span.
Oh, I
And so
didn't know
as
that.
we age, yeah, I didn't know either. I was like, what? Tell me
Yeah.
more. I'm so curious now.
Yeah.
But so like the better we do on an ongoing basis as that bone regenerates over time, it's going to be healthier bone structure
Mm.
by making sure that we're walking, climbing stairs, lifting up things and setting things down. And it doesn't have to be extreme, but it will prevent us from encountering a variety of ailments.
It really is so amazing to hear kind of the how it all relates. I mean, even from food to the resistance training to how it all affects your body. I have to ask what type of cheese you would
Yeah,
go
oh
to.
my gosh. Yeah, we blew right past that, didn't we? Because you unleashed me and I just woof, there we go. I got so excited. So I am a huge fan. of really good quality raw cheddar because it's
Okay.
so savory. It's kind of salty and,
Yeah.
it's aged. And my wife is of Italian heritage, and Parmesan is huge in our house. I get cheese anxiety. This is a
Oh my
secret about
gosh.
me. I'm going
Oh my
to
gosh.
tell a fun fact that's kind of scary window into Nigel's brain. If we are without like at least, like a chunk of parm like this big, it gets used daily somehow in our house. I don't even know where it goes. It's
Oh,
like gone all the time. And so I'm getting ready to go to a quality market tomorrow to replenish. But I just go between those two. It's just when it's good quality, and you cut it and it kind of crumbles a little bit
mm,
and it's a little bit drier, and doesn't have all sorts of added junk in it and everything. It's
right.
super natural. It's just so salty, savory. Just it's
Wow.
like so satisfying for me.
Very cool. So that's your kind of go-to. What would be,
Yeah.
maybe maybe the most exotic or something type of food that you've had in some of the places that you've lived or that you've
Oh
enjoyed, I
wow.
should say, that you were like,
Yeah.
"That dish stayed with me forever."
Yeah, wow. So many great and different things. I think one that I enjoy, we don't make it very often, but it was a really cool experience. And so not only the interesting flavors and just spending the time with the people that shared with me their approach to cooking. There's a lady, and I'll give her a shout out. She was a professional chef for the U.S. Embassy for many years
Oh
in
my
the country of
gosh.
Malta, a small Mediterranean island. And I had a really cool opportunity to work at the U.S. Embassy in Malta. And while I was there, she maintained a fond connection, her and her husband, of British heritage. And after she had retired from cooking for ambassadors of the United States to Malta, she continued cooking classes in her home, her and her husband, John. So yeah,
Wow.
Pippa and John Matei, just great human beings. And they invited me to their home. I found Pippa's number and it was kind of an open invitation to embassy staff. And so I went to her home and she took me to the market and we selected fresh fish and we made a fish pie.
Oh
And
my
yeah,
gosh.
yeah. So spinach in it, fish after it had been cooked, and all sorts of things that went into this great dish. And I just thought to myself, this is gonna be disgusting. I gotta tell you, I was kind of like, I don't know if I'm ready for this. This is not my taste, but it was so good. It was so good. We
Mm,
rolled out, made the crust from scratch and lined the pan just like a pie and then cooked up the ingredients and then added everything together before a brief bake. And then just how savory it was. It was like comfort food. It was like comfort food. It blew
wow.
my mind. And it was such a fun experience too, getting to learn, it was a very cultural cuisine because in the Mediterranean, on an island that's like 20 by 8 miles,
Oh my goodness.
it's not like there's herds of cattle and it's not like there's tons and tons of chickens and pigs and all of these animals, lamb, to be able to eat as protein. And so there's a tremendous amount of fish. Fish are
Mm,
abundant or sea life. So octopus, huge, huge in dishes in Malta. Anything you can get from the sea because it doesn't have to be imported. People want their
mm,
ingredients local that can come in fresh from the fishermen in the morning. They bring it straight to the market and now you get to select. And I'd say the one land animal that's pretty popular there because the rapid rate of growth and still very tasty is rabbit.
wow.
So a lot of rabbit cuisine in Malta. But yeah, that fish pie, that's one that sticks out to me. Not super crazy, in terms of not super adventurous, right? Like a lot of people eat tuna fish, a lot of people eat spinach. How often do you heat tuna fish and put it in a
Right.
pie with spinach? That was the weird part, right? But it was really tasty, and I absolutely love that dish, and it's a good one for the fall too. It tastes really good in fall.
And how cool that you got to, I mean, from start to finish, be a part of it, going to the market, seeing how the ingredients were purchased, to then preparing and then tasting with
Yeah,
someone of that caliber. My goodness.
it was such an amazing experience to be able to get to do that and then share that with my family too when I came back to the US. Just really cool human connection. And I think, I kind of saw myself in that moment. This is going to sound really dumb, but like I almost felt like Anthony Bourdain or something for a brief moment. Here I am exploring, this
Oh my
amazing
gosh.
culture and stuff. And, I mean, that's silly. I'm not that caliber of a chef or anything like that, but it just felt really cool to explore the world and
Yeah.
see the uniqueness of cuisine in a cultural setting. And I've done that in many places. The Middle East, another one that I'll share, particularly in Jordan, is a roast dish of typically goat, and it's called mansif. And
Mm.
there's a yogurt based sauce that goes with the meat, and that you can dip the meat in after the goat has been roasted and brought out on this gigantic
Wow.
tray. And it's the whole animal, and it's brought out to be shared as like a banquet type meal with others. And, you're just digging in with your hand and pulling pieces of meat off and then dipping it in this yogurt dish. And it's like a Greek yogurt concoction. And
Wow.
it's very off putting to a lot of people, but it's when someone offers you Mansif in Jordan, it's like a huge deal. They are very proud.
Oh,
And Jordanian people, so cool. On and off, I lived there for about 3 years,
my
and so I
goodness.
became very fond of Mansif. And when I would have other guests, at the embassy or whatever from the US, people would tell them, stay away from the Mansif or whatever. Oh, it's gross and that sort of thing. And I go, hey, stop it, y'all.
Yeah.
You gotta keep an open mind. And I would take people to where it was done well. And a lot of people, surprisingly, I was able to get to have an open mind and get to enjoy it, or at least give it a try before you knock it. And
Oh,
that's a favorite of mine. Mansif, delicious.
my goodness. Very cool. And the stories and where they come from. My gosh, this is like so cool to hear about the food and the culture surrounding it. So I appreciate you sharing that.
Yeah, certainly. I love it because it brings us all together, and on the positive focus of what we're here to talk about today is, you can appreciate so much when you just take a moment, you just slow down and be very intentional. I didn't know what that meant for the longest time in my life. I've always
Mhm.
kind of tried to do it, but once I started becoming a lot more focused on what that meant, I've derived so much more joy in life from the
Mhm.
simplest of things like food and where it comes from, and the people who make it and why and how, and then doing it together and enjoying it together. That's the spice of life.
It
That's the
is.
reason for existence, in my opinion.
Wow. Oh my goodness, that's profound.
Well, I wasn't trying to get too existential there, but I guess I did unintentionally because that's the way it feels to me. It just brings such joy. And yeah, it's a beautiful aspect of life that I think is unappreciated in the modern day because
Mhm.
we're so busy and we have these crazy schedules and devices and
Yes,
technology and distractions that we forget, some of the simplest things in life can bring us the most joy.
it's so true. So I'm going to pivot and talk a little bit about what you do for vets to this day. Guitars for Vets. Amazing, amazing. I am super appreciative of it. I'm very, very appreciative of our military. And so when I learned about what you were doing, I was really blown away. But I'd love for you to share what is Guitars for Vets and kind of how, why, and how, all the
Yeah.
details.
Certainly. And thank you for giving me the opportunity to do that because um, I work from home and I serve in a executive leader role at Guitars for Vets. And Guitars for Vets has been around since 2007. And our mission is really to grow community in places that it is kind of atrophied
Mm,
or just maybe was never present, and return that sense of camaraderie for veterans. And so while we started with a mandate during, a time where, post 9/11, about 6 years, our country started to see a great need and demand for services outside of, the military healthcare system, the Department of Veterans Affairs, to address unique needs of service
yeah.
members who had been wounded or struggling with like PTSD from combat. One of the longest wars in history, the global war on terror, and I served for such a huge portion of that time, and that affected me directly. So these organizations were born from that. And while I joined Guitars for Vets about 2 years ago after leaving corporate America because it was not good for my health. It was great for my paycheck and my
Yeah.
bank account, but it was not great for my health. And I go, you know what? I need to do something that I can truly believe in my heart and soul that will do something important in this world and not make, it's not about making money. And
Yeah.
it was Guitars for Vets. And so, just going back to that origin, the program was very focused on PTSD in the beginning. And what we've come to realize is that one of the biggest challenges for service members is, we go into the military for service above self. Sometimes we don't know why we go, but we come to realize very quickly that we are sacrificing a lot
Mhm.
for the greater good. And we develop very deep bonds as a result of the stressful experiences that we have in the military. Even if we never deploy, maybe we never leave the US,
Mm.
maybe we've never seen combat, but we get really used to trusting that person to our left and our right, our brothers and sisters. And you become so close because you have to rely on each other as a team. And so anyone who's played sports understands how great teamwork feels, and
Mhm.
they understand what it looks like when that team is fractured and not functioning. And I think most of us can relate to that. So many people have played sports or worked in a highly functioning business unit, maybe in their profession. And you go, you know when you're grooving, right? You know when your team's on fire because everybody's doing their part towards a common goal.
Yep.
Those people are the people that we want to surround ourselves with because we develop an immense amount of personal trust with those people, and we miss that when it's gone. So
Mm.
whether it's in a business environment, sports environment, but particularly the military where lives could be at stake, it just accentuates that experience a little bit more, I think. And so I think we're all capable of feeling and experiencing that. Most of us have at some point in our lives. But when we leave the military and take off the uniform, it feels like that's ripped away from us. And
Mm.
we feel a bit empty. And we feel like only people that have been through that can understand it. And
Yeah.
as a result, kind of like the hardships maybe that we experienced in the military, when I go out to a social engagement and somebody's complaining about
Mm.
something simple in their life that went wrong, we can oftentimes have this sense of, that just seems trivial to me.
Yeah.
And so I don't feel connected to you because I don't feel like we share the same perspective. Whether that's fair or unfair is not what we're here to talk about, but it is what we are doing to return that feeling of teamwork and joy into the lives of veterans beyond just ailments or things that we would consider afflictions associated with service, like PTSD, traumatic brain injuries that do leave a very deep mark on so many lives. And so we're able to return joy in all of these different ways by creating community around what we do. So here's how it works. The long and the short of it is we provide veterans with 10 weeks of individualized guitar lessons. It's not, you must play these chords, you must play this song by the end of 10 weeks. It is, you need to have a meaningful connection with this instrument so you can enjoy it
Mm.
long term. That's the goal of the lessons. And we work through that in whatever way makes sense for the veteran because they may have a hard time picking up that sequence of chords based on a brain injury,
Oh,
or they may have issue. They may be missing digits.
right.
So we need to work through that as they're manipulating the strings and the chords on the instrument. And so it's very individualized to make sure that that service member or veteran specifically is receiving the greatest amount of utility in the instrument and joy as a result. Well, what's the natural thing that we think about with music, right? It's communal. We enjoy it
Yep.
together. We go to concerts, right? Or people that are playing, what most often occurs. You don't usually see solo artists. You see bands, right? Like
Yeah.
people like to play together. People like to consume the joy together. Well, that's community. And so the natural next step is I finish 10 weeks of lessons and I go, well, where are the other people like me that have been through this program? I thought I was going to
Mm.
get to be with them and do this together. Oh, yeah. No, no, no. Wait, there's more because we hold jam sessions and that's a
Oh,
peer support
so
environment.
cool.
Yeah. And we get together And it's there's no business meetings, there's no dues. All of this is free to the veteran. It's an opportunity to come together with a shared experience, a shared background
Mhm.
relatively for these veterans that we serve. And now they get to learn new songs together. They get to support each other through those challenges that they may face, in learning. And they can do so from a position of, hey, I don't know what you're feeling right now, but I know I had to work around something for myself. And so
Mhm.
I'm going to do my best to translate how I overcame that hurdle to you so that you can overcome it. And that's a very comforting environment because we depended on each other then in service and uniform. Now we get to rely on each other and have a much higher likelihood of trust with one another in that environment where we learn from each other. And so it becomes such a beautiful thing. And then next thing you know, well, what do I want to do next? Well, I want to get out and shout from the rooftops to my community, the city I live in, the people around me that don't get me. I want them to see
Yes.
how cool this is so that they can tell their friends and neighbors that are like me to come do this with me because I know it's going to make a huge difference in their life. And so now what's happening? I'm going out into public at a farmer's market and I go, I want to play music in public. People will like the music and then they will come ask me how I did this and I will share with them what it is. And now someone who maybe doesn't understand military culture, I get an opportunity and am willing to share with them in such a positive way about, hey, this helped me overcome something that I could not put words to before, but now I understand. And that's a motto that we have is music speaks where words fail.
Mm.
So it really is that way to unleash what could be burdening our hearts, our minds from our service and bring us relief from that, whatever it may be. And I think it's good for anyone. It's not specific to veterans. We just happen to serve veterans because we know
That's
there's
right.
such a huge need. And it's really joyful to be able to serve in the role that I have, which is to make sure this service remains possible for as long as veterans seek us out. And
Mm.
that's the primary duties of what I do is long-term strategic vision, making sure that we continue to add more programs. Like we recently started a songwriting program,
Oh my
and
goodness, that's amazing.
yeah, it's so cool. And that's a continuation because what happens after I get the ability to do this with the guitar? I go, well, I got this story I want to share. I
Mhm.
want to write a song. I don't know where to start. So it's a follow on experience that becomes this lifelong opportunity to continue to engage and share that communal joy with other veterans and regrow community truly across America. We are nationwide. And the most amazing thing is veterans can access us online. And so
Okay,
while
yeah.
we have immense demand for our service, there is a wait list in many
Mm.
cases. It is because we are maintaining at least the same level of service always as the year prior, if not growing. And then once we hit that new benchmark, we hold it at least. But we have veterans that keep learning more and more about us, and they're coming to us because they hear from friends, family, other veterans about our organization, and they go, wow, I think I'd really like to do that.
Mhm.
And so more and more keep coming to us. And so that's our goal. And that's really the duties of my role is to make that possible.
Wow, that it's amazing, and to think, sometimes the words might not be there to express whatever someone has gone through, but music, even just some notes, can make you feel and process things. And I just think that's so beautiful. How can people help guitars for vets?
Yeah. So there's a variety of ways, and some of this may sound a little silly, but click like and share,
Hmm.
right? Go to our social media. We're on Facebook. We're on Instagram. We're on YouTube. We have a YouTube channel where you can see more of the things we're doing. We have an amazing website. It's guitars with an S, the number four,
Okay.
vets like veterans, but vets.org. And there's a lot of information, and we're constantly updating information about our services on there. And there are ways for people to get involved as volunteers. But simply by sharing, who knows the people that you know in your social circles or your social media circles that may be paying attention to your posts. And you go, well, I'm not military. Well, it's very likely that someone you know or someone
Yeah.
they know
Yeah.
is. And so even if there's not a single veteran in your circles, but you share it, and then someone who has a spouse, a child, a friend that is, and they see it on your page, and you're just saying, hey, this is a cool organization. If you know of anyone who could benefit from this, share it. And so I know it's just kind of become the norm, like click share, as a mantra, but no, it's true. It can reach a whole different group of people by doing so. And
Absolutely.
that's why I ask, anybody can do that if you're active in social media, right? It's free, it's
Mhm.
easy, it takes seconds. So that's number one. Volunteerism. If somebody is feeling generous with their time, they go, I want a personal connection with this mission.
Yeah.
We have opportunities all across the US to get involved at our chapters. If there is not a chapter nearby, folks are free to contact me,
Mm.
because the role that I work in, we find new ways to incorporate volunteers where, say, we're facing a technical challenge. We use, a CRM platform
Mhm.
that keeps track of all of the folks that we've served. It keeps track of all of our volunteers. It keeps track of our donors. And we have to update that from time to time and find new ways to be more efficient in our business. Well, that's a way that somebody goes, hey, I can't teach guitar lessons, and I don't have time to teach 1 hour guitar for 10 weeks straight, even if I am a guitar player. And they
Mhm.
go, but I really want to help. And I could dedicate a Saturday, every 3 or 4 months, like 4 hours to like sit down and do something. And I happen to be a genius with computers. That's what I do in my work. I'm an IT
Wow.
professional. And we
Yeah.
go, please let me know. I would love to show you ways that you could help our organization so that we don't have to pay a consultant or something like that
Mhm.
to accomplish a new project that can be small in scope, short duration, and low lift for somebody that's already their specialty. And then, of course, the most obvious way is donations.
Mhm.
If somebody, you know, it's a tax deductible donation because we are a 501c3 public charity. And some of the newer ways that have caught people's attention recently, we've got a mailing address for our processing center that's on our website. It's down the bottom right hand corner. And you can mail in a check if you so desire. We have online giving where you can give monthly in small amounts, but do so for a long period. You can donate lump sum, but donor advised funds and mandatory distributions from things like Ks or IRAs have become quite popular in recent years where people go, will you accept that? And we go, yes, yes, we
That's
do.
awesome.
So those are the predominant ways that folks can get involved. They can help us continue this mission, and they can feel really good about doing it because we've been doing this coming up on 20 years in 2027. We're not going anywhere, and we're only gaining momentum.
That is amazing, and I think what people, can think about is that the, like, recurring amount. So they might be going out to eat or whatever it might be, but if they can put that into a donation and it just recurs every single month and it's part of their budget, it makes a huge difference and it might not actually change their budget that much, so it's a simple act of, all right, one less night of going out to eat or something like that, whatever it might be.
Yes,
I think that makes a big, big difference, for nonprofits, especially that rely on that recurring donation. So something
we
to think
do.
about.
Yeah, and I'm glad that you brought that up. You stated that like absolute professional, you must do this for a living in another life or something, right? But it really is the individual donor is the most powerful donor we have. It is great to have corporate donors that will
Mhm.
come in and write a large check one time. But when that money has been used for our service in a year, and then their priorities change next year because their board, their shareholders, have different ideas about what they want to do, that money can be gone. Even if they love what we do, they go,
That's
we
right.
also love what these people do for children that, need a better education or whatever it may be, the environment. And so that funding can go away very easily. Where if somebody goes, hey, I can do $10 a month, I can do
That's
that.
right.
And I'm just going to set it and forget it because this is important to me. Our nation's veterans matter to
Mhm.
me. Our safety and security matter. And the last thing I'll say on that before I jump down off of this awesome platform that you gave me to share those things is that, yeah, that recurring donation is so amazing. Think about what nation's veterans bring to your community.
Mm,
Think about that for a brief moment. It's not just the service we provided when we were war fighting or being willing to fight those wars. Oftentimes, we're going and utilizing our veterans' benefits to get a higher education. And we're
wow.
applying that education in our communities as teachers, as members of the local government, as law enforcement, as firefighters, as business owners that provide you a really cool thing that you want in your community. We take
Mhm.
advantage of the small business loans that are backed by the VA that help us get that start in business. And so we are all the things that everyone else may be in the community. You may just not see it because we try to be very humble and we're no longer wearing the uniform. And
Mm.
one of my favorite examples to use is somebody like me, right? You see me and I'm walking around on the street. I'm a muscle guy. I got tattoos. I look like your stereotypical veteran. But when we go out, my wife served for 15 years in the army and she's
Mm.
a gorgeous, amazing woman. And people often just look at me and go, "Hey, you must be a veteran. Thank you for your service." And they go, "Absolutely. It was an honor. It was an absolute privilege to serve my country." My wife also served, but she
Wow.
just the way she looks, sadly, we stereotype that way in our society,
Yeah.
and they never would know just by visual cues of looking at her. And I don't blame them, right? There's nothing overt about her that screams, "I'm a veteran," unless she's wearing a shirt that says, "I'm a veteran," right?
Yeah.
And so that's one of those things where you never know who it is in your community that served our country, whether it be for 4 years or 30 years, and now they're delivering immense value in your community in some other way that came from their life of service that gave them the discipline and the drive to want to continue to give, and they're making your community a more vibrant place. So I ask folks to consider that because through services like ours we help veterans have that foothold and foundation of emotional, mental, and physical stability to project those beautiful gifts back into society. And if we don't, sadly, in some instances, they will not be able to share those gifts. So
Right.
it's just a great thing to kind of round out that discussion, I think.
Yeah. Well, I so appreciate you, your wife, and everything that you both have done and what you're doing for Guitars for Vets. And it's incredible. We have to talk again. I can think about like 5 different other topics that we could talk
Yes,
about.
please.
And I so appreciate your time and thank you for tuning in.
Certainly. Take care.